and I'm an occupational therapist, and the patient immediately, just by my appearance, he said, you know, I don't want to be treated by you. You know, you're a Muslim, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, well, I don't want to be treated by someone who's Muslim. And he said, what happened in 9/11? He refused therapy, and he asked for my supervisor's name and number. So he calls my supervisor and said, what were you thinking hiring a Muslim? And don't you remember 9/11? He said that to my supervisor, and my supervisor said, you know, you cannot label. And she stood up for me. You know, she's Caucasian American. She stood up for me and she said, you know, without knowing the person, you cannot label someone like that. And he said, she told him, you can have a different therapist, but he demanded that he fired me. She was like, no, you can have a different therapist, but we're not going to let her go. So, you know, there are so many challenges in our workplace. And I've been there for 8 years, and I come across these challenges all the time. And I'm sure you guys have too. So it makes it difficult, but our values, our workplace values, and I think Islamic values are very similar. We have the same belief. We want to help people. We want to, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we want to help people, regardless of their color and religion. And so that is the main theme and main value for us being Muslims and for the workplace. So is there anyone who would like to share their story? Yes, please.
If you look back in United States history, I say Pearl Harbor was a pretty impact in United States. That was pretty impact in United States. That was a pretty big thing. And I would say in the past, since then, 9/11 was that impactful. Like if you talk to anybody, 9/11, like Pearl Harbor, 9/11, you know, those are two things. The problem is that's not a good image to have. And no matter what we go in public and try to say certain things about Islam, it becomes irrelevant. You know, and we have to accept the fact that they're not Muslim. So repeating the fact what the Quran says, what I believe, is irrelevant to them. What matters to them, what happened, which was 9/11. So, you know, and that's the reality I had to face. How do you get rid of that image? How do you get rid of that stain that's there, which obviously most of us are not part of, yet we are labeled upon. And at that point, it was a realization, before I started joining IMANA and Muslim Without Borders, that we have to create an anti-9/11 event. We have to create an anti-Al-Qaeda institution, so they can actually then relate to something. So I can be in this kind of form, not just repeating certain things that I don't care about, but actually show them something that say, no, in this country, we're not about 9/11, we're about this. And at that time, there was nothing. There's nothing, there's no alternative. It was just, you know, I would remember I was in the, you know, we're late nights calls, you know, and as a, you know, we do rotation during the general surgery, and we used to talk about, you know, you're on call, and you're waiting for trauma to happen, and you're, you know, there are a bunch of friends of yours, and you're talking about all the emotional part of it. And one of the guys I remember talked to me about it. He said, he goes, Shoaib, you know, you're pretty proactive about Islam. You go there, and you know, he goes, what have the Muslims done for our country? I thought I was pretty educated. I couldn't name anything. Now, obviously, I can name on the ground level a lot of work Iman does, and other people, people do that go over there. I had no answer. I was flabbergasted. He called me, and it was true. That's just a fact. You know, if right now there's so many of us here, if I ask you on a national level, well, what have Muslims done for the United States on a piece of paper, that line is not going to be that big. You know, and if you look at the history of this country, you know, I feel the people here are fair. You know, it's their ignorance in the fact that they don't know much about our culture. Obviously, that's part of our responsibility. But if you give them hope, or if you give them direction and show them what we have done as a group, not as an individual, as a group, I think they will turn the side. And I'm actually making a speech for the Muslim Without Border about that subject, about how in past in the United States there are minorities who have come over worse images than ours because of what they have created in the United States. So they have given hope for the Americans to look at and say, okay, so there was 9/11, but you know what? That can't be true, because look at all the institutions the great Muslims have done here, and that's what we lack. And my presentation talks about the Jewish community. You believe in. I mean, we're talking about making a dental appointment to take a tooth out, right? So, and when my secretary came up, he goes, "Doc, you really want to see this guy?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I mean, that's the guy I want to see, because I see normal people all the time. I don't know what he's about. So I remember, he comes in and make an appointment, and we went on this philosophical discussion and everything. And obviously, I don't mind talking to people who are closed-minded. I need to know why they're closed-minded, and believe it or not, sometimes I don't blame them. I mean, if you just open the television, what do you see? I mean, we have to get ourselves out of this norm of who we believe we are.